A Marine veteran stood up at a Senate hearing this week to protest the war in Iran. And when security dragged him out, multiple reports confirmed that his arm was broken in the struggle.
Stand up as a Marine and stand up for America. No one wants to fight for Israel.
Why are you here? Why are you getting arrested?
Free Palestine, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. Palestine will be free.
Oh my God, they broke his arm. Oh man.
We just witnessed a Marine veteran interrupting the hearing, and they broke his arm.
Why did he interfere?
Because there is a war in Iran, and our military brothers and sisters are going to die for Israel, and we are here to say no, we do not support Israel.
It is a horrifying video, but it is the perfect snapshot of American democracy right now. Because while veterans and ordinary citizens are demanding change for their government to stop foreign endless wars, Congress just gave Trump the green light to do whatever he wants. No authorization, no clear strategy, no timeline, and apparently no consequences for his actions. This week, the United States Senate voted 53 to 47 to reject a war powers resolution that would have forced Trump to get congressional approval to continue military strikes in Iran. The vote mostly followed party lines. One Republican senator from Kentucky, Rand Paul, voted with the Democrats to limit Trump's war powers, and one Democrat, Senator John Fetterman from Pennsylvania, voted with Republicans to allow Trump to do whatever he wants. With that vote, Congress essentially told the White House, go ahead, keep fighting. You don't need us to tell you anything. You're the president. You have ultimate control, even though the Constitution requires Congress to be the one to decide when America goes to war. The House is expected to vote next, but right now, the effort is expected to fail, meaning Trump could effectively have near total authority to continue this war and start other wars across the world. To understand how we got here, we have to go back 50 years, and one of the most important laws that America has never heard of is taking effect. The War Powers Act was passed in 1973. Congress passed it after Vietnam, and the goal was simple: never again allow a president to quietly drag the country into war. Under the law, the president must notify Congress within 48 hours of military action, and military operations must end after 60 days unless Congress formally authorizes the war. In other words, the Constitution gives Congress the power to declare war. Full stop. The War Powers Act was supposed to enforce that rule, but over time, presidents from both political parties have chipped away at that law. An analysis in the Seattle Times explains that decades of presidents ignoring the law helped create the exact situation we are seeing today. In 1999, President Bill Clinton continued bombing Kosovo for 2 weeks after the 60-day period had expired without securing congressional authorization. More egregiously, President Barack Obama's administration took the legal position that bombing Libya did not count as hostilities for purposes of the War Powers Resolution because the mission was limited. The attacks came from the air, and so exposure of U.S. forces was limited. Thus, the risk of escalation was limited too. This was the State Department's view under Hillary Clinton. It contradicted the views of the Office of Legal Counsel at the Department of Justice and those of the Department of Defense. Obama's adoption of this legal theory opened up the door for any president to engage in acts of war conducted from the air and claim that the War Powers Resolution does not apply. In other words, unilateral presidential war marking became de facto legal under the Obama position. Trump's Iran attack shows exactly why this is such a historic mistake. Regardless of whether the current war with Iran lasts more than 60 days, it's certainly a war. Regardless of whether it was a good idea, the Constitution requires Congress to get involved. Every time Congress allowed a president to do this, the War Powers Act was limited. The precedent got weaker until eventually the question stopped being, can the president do this? And it became, will Congress even try to stop them and enforce the Constitution? The current conflict in Iran started when the United States launched a massive airstrike on Iran's capital. In that same airstrike, it killed Supreme Leader Khamenei and triggered retaliation across the region. Since then, multiple American troops have already been killed, regional tensions have exploded, and the Middle East is once again at the brink of war. All of this happened without congressional approval or Congress even being notified about the war that was happening. Some of the Democrats are saying that the strikes are unconstitutional. Some are saying it's within Trump's authority. But regardless, Congress has spent decades giving up its power. It has removed itself from being the ultimate check to the president, specifically when it comes to international conflicts and war powers that are initiated. And now that the real war has started, they're suddenly realizing how little leverage they have. The political drama behind this all is honestly really incredible. Earlier this year, when Trump invaded Venezuela to kidnap their sitting president and hold him in a US jail, there was a similar war powers resolution that was supposed to be enacted. At the time, some Republicans actually supported limiting presidential war powers. I mean, their whole thing is like, we want limited government. We don't want to be ruled by kings. But some Republicans are saying Trump should have king like powers to declare war whenever he wants. It doesn't make sense. But some of the Republicans that did want to limit that power actually create a limited government were people like Senator Josh Hawley from Missouri. Hawley argued that Congress needed to reclaim its constitutional authority over war. But then something happened. Trump publicly attacked Republicans who supported the effort. Tom Tillis, Josh Hawley, and Hawley completely flipped. According to reporting from Politico, Hawley is now expected to vote against limiting Trump's war powers in Iran. He learned from his mistake. Do not go against Daddy Trump. Josh Hawley will do whatever Trump demands of him. He is a good boy. I've always said that committed ground troops would be something I think that would require immediately a congressional authorization, but that doesn't seem to be in the immediate horizon, Hawley said. Asked about Trump not ruling out the possibility of ground operations in his public statements, Hawley said he can understand why he wouldn't want to rule anything in or out. He added it would be a different scenario if ground troops are deployed at a later time. So, if ground troops are deployed, Josh Hawley thinks that Congress should step in. But when asked, like, okay, does that worry you that Trump might use ground troops without congressional authorization? He says, I understand why he'd do that. This man has no principles. People can see when you don't stand on what it is that you say that you care about, and you're only doing things at the bidding of the president. When the president blasts you on social media and you completely flip flop or pivot from your original position, it's very clear that you are not motivated by conviction or by principles. You are motivated by how much does the president like me? How much is he going to help me? Meanwhile, Senate Majority Leader John Thune is downplaying the vote entirely, suggesting that Trump already had the authority he needs to continue the war and doesn't even need to hear from Congress.
Well, do you think the Congress would need to authorize any military action against Iran beyond the 60-day or 90-day window?
No. I think the president has the authority that he needs to conduct the activities, the operations that are currently underway there. As you know, there's a lot of controversy around questions around the War Powers Act, but I think the president is acting in the best interest of the nation and our national security interests by ensuring that he's protecting Americans and American bases and installations in that region, as well as those of our allies.
Again, this is a remarkable position because the Constitution requires Congress to declare war. That is in Article 1. The legislative body is supposed to be the most powerful branch in our three-branch system. And John Thune is saying, yeah, I don't even care about my own responsibilities as a senator. Let the president do what he wants. He's king. We know that a majority of Americans don't support this war or continued conflict in the Middle East. A Reuters poll found only 27% of Americans support the strikes in Iran, while 43% oppose them. Another poll found 48% disapprove of the attacks, compared to just 37% who approve of any strikes to begin with. That means that the war has less than 1/3 of public support. Even among Republicans, support drops significantly if the US troops start dying or gas prices spike, which they already are. Trump ran his campaign in 2024 on no new wars. We want to be America first. We don't want to focus on other international conflicts. And now he is literally doing Israel's bidding. We just heard from Marco Rubio, who admitted to the press that we heard that Israel is going to get attacked, so we stepped in. We are doing this for Israel. Even though the Senate vote failed, the fight for war powers is not yet over. Right now, there are two competing proposals in the House of Representatives. One proposal from Democrats would allow military operations to continue for 30 more days before requiring congressional authorization. Terrible, absolutely garbage proposal. Effectively, it's just allowing the war to continue and saying, we'll kick the can down a little bit longer. We'll let you keep doing this, Mr. President, but in 30 days, you better watch out. You'll need our approval. Who gives a shit? You don't think that we can just completely destabilize it even further in 30 days? I hate that strategy. The other proposal is a lot stronger from Senator Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna. This one demands immediate withdrawal unless Congress formally approves the war. Fantastic idea. Props to Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna. This is actually how the Constitution is supposed to work because it gives Congress that explicit authority. Whether that resolution has any chance of passing is an entirely different question, but we need strong leadership of people who actually want to check this president. It baffles my mind that any Democrat is considering, yeah, we'll let him continue for 30 days. A majority of the country hates this. A majority of the country wants the war to stop. Stand up for them. The legislative body is supposed to be the most powerful in our American system because it represents the people's opinion. So represent them. Stop this president. We're done with this war. The situation happening right now is not just about Iran. It is about how the American democracy handles wartime powers. Congress explicitly has the power for all war related decisions, which is endowed in the Constitution, the founding documents of this country. But since then, presidents have been chipping away at that for decades. Presidents test their limits, Congress complains, we go to war anyway. Remember that Marine veteran who had his arm broken from protesting, because that is the perfect example of our entire system diluted into one interaction. People protest war. They don't want to continue conflicts endlessly. They want to have themselves prioritized. They want their economic conditions to change. But war happens anyway. We wake up, in my case, wake up in the middle of the night on Friday to find out that we are going into another war. That is not okay. Congress did not authorize that war, and the president might be able to continue it for as long as he wants. Remember that instance because it shows that the people protest, the politicians vote, and we go to war anyway.